And we welcome in Abby Brzezinski. She is the CEO at the Jackie Nitschke Center, which is the only residential adult treatment center for substance abuse addiction here in Brown County. So based on what you're seeing at your level, do these big overarching national numbers tell the story?
Well, data and research takes a long time.
Yeah.
But we can reasonably look at the timeline and make anecdotal correlations.
Okay.
When we talk about Narcan, right?
Yeah.
So there's been a big push to make sure that Narcan is available to anyone who wants it, making sure that Narcan are in our police cars, making sure that all emergency medical services have Narcan.
Right.
Our schools have Narcan.
Vending machines have it.
Right,
Right.
Absolutely. That's so important. So people who are using can now get Narcan in case there is an unfortunate instance. And the more that we can promote that and get everyday humans to, kind of carry that and have access to it. I look at it like CPR.
Okay.
So we get trained, we get certified for CPR. Hopefully we never have to use it. And the more that we can have people carry that with them, and if they interact with somebody who they think possibly is overdosing, having that readily available is super important.
All right, so this proliferation of the Narcan being available might be a reason why these numbers have gone down. In Wisconsin, it's now 2 years in a row where overdose deaths, period, overall, not just opioids, but overall have dropped. It was about by 50 from 2022 to 23, but this year is about 600. So that could speak to the reason, one of the reasons why is this
Sure,
Narcan.
absolutely.
So how do you understand then with that caveat, if we're actually treating the problem of addiction versus the product of addiction?
Right, so we need to make sure that we're looking at addiction as our medical professionals, our therapists, our clinical teams are looking at it, right? So it's a disease that, for most people, requires treatment. When we look at the stages before that, we have to acknowledge the other things in our community. So the great work that our courts are doing. So courts are doing, drug court, even heroin court, mental health court. That plays a huge part. So what that does allow is for individuals, instead of going right to jail or going right to prison, or they can choose to get treatment. So that is a huge factor. So I want to acknowledge the important work that our drug courts are doing in our community. That definitely is making an impact.
I'm curious about the impact that you perhaps have seen at your level from the opioid settlement dollars that have now been dispersed here over the last few years, and there will be more coming, and how the state uses them. It probably has something to do with the Narcan proliferation, but it's also a lot of awareness programs, probably the court system stuff. Are you seeing the impact of that money at your level?
Absolutely. So when we talk about the awareness programs, and acknowledging that addiction is substance use disorder, that it's a disease, that's huge, because that takes away the stigma. That takes away the shame that that individual may be feeling, that are barriers to getting treatment. It's really important that we focus on what barriers are preventing people from getting treatment. So at the Jackie Nitschke Center, we are very committed to making sure that we're reducing that stigma, reducing any barriers that we can, and advocating that, within our private sector and public sector, that we are able to continue that mission. So when we talk about barriers, that's multi-pronged. It is not, there's not one solution that is going to be right for everyone.
Right.
So we're talking about humans. We're talking about individuals in our community. So when we look at those, that journey looks different for everybody. There's not a cookie cutter approach to almost anything in our entire world, and we have to acknowledge that.
All right, so I'm curious, you're talking about the human element here, and we go back to the earlier points, which are about data points, right? And all these numbers that come in. That tends to dehumanize the problem, but at your level, you're dealing with humans. So can you at least take that data, which looks encouraging,
100%,
obviously, and use it to encourage individuals?
Absolutely, it'd be silly
not
to. Well, I think just making sure that people know the resources that are out there, making sure that we're providing the loved ones of someone who is using the right tools. And at the Jackie Nitschke Center, that's our focus, is making sure that we're not only providing treatment for that individual through substance use disorder treatment and then also mental health treatment, but making sure that the families have the tools and the resources that they need to get through this time of difficulty.
And finally, when there is news like this, does it help, speaking of needing tools and resources,
Yeah.
you do, right?
Yeah,
And
right.
so, in fact, last night you received a $35,000
We did,
donation
yes.
from the Rotary Club
Yeah.
of Green Bay. So when this kind of news comes out, does that help you and organizations like you raise those important funds?
Absolutely. And right, there's funding that needs to happen, but there's also that awareness aspect.
Sure.
A lot of times people don't know all the services that not only the Jackie Nitschke Center provides, but the other services in our community. We're a nonprofit.
Right.
Right. We rely on our community to make sure that we can continue financially. But just as important is that awareness, making sure that people know what services are
Sure.
available. That is huge, making sure that we work on taking away those barriers from accessing treatment, making sure that we're reducing that stigma so that people feel more comfortable reaching out. So again, this is a huge approach.
Right.
It's going to take a lot of different individuals, private, public, just regular community members, to continue to make this progress. But it's great to see that what we are doing right now, at least anecdotally, seems to having a significant impact.
Well, Abby, thanks so much for the time. Thanks for what you
Yeah,
do.
absolutely.